Welcome to the Vol Bros. My name is Evan. This is my brother Bama. I'm available. I couldn't get through it without laughing. We are two Vol Bros who are actually bros in real life, and we welcome you to the Vol Bros podcast. We talk all things Tennessee sports on here tonight. Specifically, we're doing a reaction show to the Tennessee Mississippi State basketball game, which I accidentally put Ole Miss in my haste, but this is the other Mississippi school. So Mississippi State basketball game from last night. It's not very often that you score 50 points in a half and end up losing the game. But that did happen last night. Rustin, what were your immediate takeaways from that game last night?
Well, thank God Zakai hit 12, 13 points worth of shots in the first half. Or otherwise, I'm not sure we would have broken double figures.
Yep.
I don't know if they could have shot the ball worse in the first half. It's amazing that a team can go out and score 22 in the first half and then have some epiphany in the locker room and drop 50 in the second half. But we lost on secondary players. I don't know if you realize this or not, but outside of Dalton and Zakai, we scored 18 points. So we had 6 other guys that stepped on the court who combined for 18 points. It doesn't matter who you're playing unless somebody scores 40 plus, you're not going to win. By comparison, if you take away Mississippi State's top 2 scorers, the rest of their team scored 29. So, there's the difference in the game right there. We did not have a third scoring option, and it bit us.
Yeah, a lot of people were really upset with Santiago Vescovi, saying he wasn't scoring hardly at all. I would say yes, that is correct. He wasn't scoring. However, he was directly responsible for creating multiple turnovers in the second half when they were pressing, which led to points. So he made his impact felt defensively. But Santi is known for his scoring ability, and so we need him to be a threat on that end of the court as well. A couple interesting things near the end of the game there. One was the 10-second call, which once again, kudos to Santi. He had enough court awareness to where he was on the court and how much time would have been left in that 10-second clock in his head that he caused a 10-second violation. So kudos to him for that. However, he was backpedaling and stopped right because he knew where he was, and he stopped and bodied up to the guy. It resulted in 10-second call. Some people are like, but they shouldn't have blown the whistle because possession had changed possessions. I don't think we can say that possession had changed at that point. Was the ball loose? Yes. Had Santi gained possession of it? No, he hadn't yet. So it's hard to say that, it's hard to say that possession should have changed there. One of the more interesting things that was, the officiating wasn't great all night. They missed a whole bunch of traveling calls on both teams. So
I think the thing that bothered me the most, and I've just kind of resigned myself to it, like it's an annual tradition. The SEC is going to have the worst basketball refs in America. They just don't care. They let these guys keep coming out. They never hold them accountable. If you watch SEC basketball, not just Tennessee, but if you watch the conference, it's the same guys every night blowing every call. It's unbelievable. And they just let them keep coming back. But if you go back and watch, the majority of the really bad foul calls that were made both ways, like there were a bunch of just phantom calls. It was like, what are you watching? They were all the same guy. There's one official who was making almost every call that everybody disagreed with. And it was like, how does the conference not see this? Like, how do they not notice there's 3 guys on that court? 2 of them aren't getting booed every time they blow their whistle. One is by both teams. Like, fire the man.
Well,
find anyone else.
One thing that was very interesting at the very, very end of the game. Now, obviously, I understand there's 0.1 seconds left. I get that. But when Tennessee went down by 5 when they dunked it with 0.1 seconds left. There were several people that ran on the court, some bananas as well. But there were some folks who ran on the court. That should have been a technical foul. Tennessee should have gotten 2 shots on the ball. Now, could they get off a shot with, if they make both free throws and they'd have to make a 3, could they get off a shot with 0.1 seconds left? Probably not. But you could at least try to tip it or something. I mean, throw it towards the goal and then have somebody come through and just kind of push it, in their hands and from the 3-point line. I mean, maybe, at least you have a chance, instead of just, ending the game. So that kind of bothered me that wasn't a technical foul at the end. But story of the game is you can't score nothing in the first half and expect to win. I mean, that's the bottom line. Some of the quotes or stuff coming through. Hey, just so everybody who happens to be watching right now, released during the national championship game on Monday. We've got these smoky shirts on our website now. It's not just shirt though. You can get a cool sticker. So like your water bottle or whatever, laptop. Got a hoodie. There's like a kid's onesie, all kinds of stuff on there. So the volbros.com, and I think I have a lower third for that. Yes, I do. The volbros.com or just volbros.com, either way. And you click on shop in the top right corner. You can find that. Let's see here. Let's do play of the game first because I think that is incredibly easy. What was your play of the game? Dalton's tomahawk slam. That was amazing. That was absolutely. I mean, I went woo like that when it happened. Y'all let us know in the comments what your plays of the game were as well.
We never said the play of the game had to be positive. The play of the game was the ref making the 10-second call. Went from a 72 to 70 game that, if he lets it play out, Santi gets an easy layup. It's tied all 72. Instead, he calls the turnover. We don't score. They go down, score. That was the end of the game. Watch back. I hate that he called it. Watching it back, it was the right call, but I wish he had just let it play out. Like the fact that he was cognizant of the fact that the ball had not changed possession and made that call as Santi was picking the ball up. Like, how do you not let that play? I mean, it just
I understand. Let's see. Oreo Puppy Dog said, I know it's about how we stunk up the place in basketball, but we have to talk about Saban. We will. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. Elijah said, honestly, not too worried about basketball team. Not going to be many nights where JJJ and Sonny combined for 5 points on 2 of 12 shooting. One thing I am worried about is our defense against good big men. That's totally fair. He said, that was probably the worst call of the season. And when he called the ball dead there. Let's see. I'm going to take that banner off. What else we got? Oreo Puppy Dog, welcome, buddy. He said SEC refs in all sports are bad.
I tell you, the only ones worse than men's basketball refs in the SEC are the women's basketball refs. Holy cow. I don't know where they get these people from, but there are moments I legitimately watch games and go, did they literally just tell these people the rules in the hallway before they ran out here? I mean, it is unbelievable how bad they are.
Devin, welcome, Devin. Good to have you, buddy. He said Vescovy did play decent defense. Gainey, on the other hand, didn't score any points. He also had 1 steal, but turned the ball over once for us, too. He's got to get his confidence back. Yeah, it's, they put up that graphic during the game that there were 4 players on Tennessee's team that were career 1,000-point scorers, and Gainey was one of them. And man, we have not seen it the last month. He is really struggling right now. Devin said the super seniors should be the ones who step up in a game like that, but they didn't. Totally agree. If they aren't, then Barnes should give the freshmen a chance. Yeah, the super seniors should be the ones that are the people who step up in that situation and take control, be leaders. And he just didn't. Oh, Elijah. I like this pick, actually. This is a good one, Elijah. Elijah said, since it doesn't have to be a good thing for the play of the game, he said the play of the game was when Jonas Adu fouled out for nothing, like when he did nothing and got a call fouled on him. I agree. That was a very, very questionable call. No doubt about it. Yeah, I totally agree. Um, Moondrops Beauty, welcome. Good to have you. She said that was an awful call. She said, I'm getting concerned how Adu goes from playing elite to getting totally dominated by the opposite team's big man. Worries me down the road. I think that's a very fair point.
Yep. It's starting to remind me a lot of Olivier Commois. One night he's a man among boys, the next night he's a little boy. The inconsistency is not good.
Elijah said Gainey is Tyreek Key version 2. Ooh, interesting. That's a pretty good comparison. He said, it's sad to say, but it's true. Well, the bright side there is Tyreek Key had a late season surge last year where he dominated a few games in scoring. So maybe Gainey, if he pulls the same thing, maybe he'll help us out in a couple games here. Welcome, Tony. Tony said, I know y'all are high on Jonas. I'm not. Or excuse me, Josiah. I'm not. He said he didn't play good defense last night. Gainey needs to ride the pine. I agree about Gainey.
Yep. I'm
last
starting
night
to wonder. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I'm starting to wonder how soon we're about to see Freddie DeLeon take Jordan Gainey's minutes. Like it's got to be happening in practice, or maybe even Cameron Carr. But I feel like here pretty soon we're going to see one of those two guys in Jordan Gainey's spot.
I mean, it got so bad last night that he took a shot, and I was like, I don't know, man. The first month of the season, we'd be like, yeah, take that shot. But now it's like, that's almost a turnover if you don't want to do that. You don't want to have a shot equate to a turnover.
I will say the one thing I will disagree with you on, Tony. Josiah is having his best year of his career, and
he just didn't play well last night.
One bad night does not change the fact that he's averaging 10 points and 7 rebounds a night right now. I mean, he's been excellent. He just had a bad game.
He's certainly been, him and Zakai have been the most consistent players for us so far.
Yep.
Elijah said Gainey, or Freddie DeLeon taking Gainey's minutes needs to happen soon. Moondrops Beauty said, please don't say Olivier, LOL. Now I'm Michigan Wolverine. Repping my Josh Mancuso shirt. Shout out to Josh. If anybody saw his video with Tony Vitello, that was hilarious. You should go watch it if you hadn't seen it yet. And it's exciting that the baseball team actually enjoyed it so much that they're having him back to do more videos. So that'll be really cool.
I wonder how Olivier feels about leaving a team that potentially is going to be a Final Four team for a Michigan team that is currently 6-10.
Yep. Elijah said, but on the bright side, 4 of the top 5 teams lost, so we weren't the only one. That's true. And that's just how much, parity there is in college basketball right now. Anybody can beat anybody on any night. So, I think that's a great point. Tony said, I agree, Rustin, on Josiah, but he has to play better defense.
Yeah.
Yep. Defense travels. There's no reason to have an off night on defense. Papa J said, welcome, Papa J. Good to have you. He said, Vescovy is good on the court, but please start getting hot. Yeah, for sure. Obviously he helped us defensively last night, but he has to help us offensively as well. He has to be a scoring threat. Hey, Carl, welcome, buddy. He said, kept getting close. Lose balls out of bounds. And that's a good point. I mean, they never could get over that hump, the tie game mark. We bring it all the way back and tie it up and then do something and lose the ball. We bring it all the way back, tie it up, then do something and lose the ball. Yep, you're right. Elijah said, genuinely think the 1 seeds might have up to 5 losses this year. You might have some that have at least 3 or 4 for sure. That's exactly right. Moondrops B said, why did Olivier leave anyway? Didn't like being coached so hard? Just a guess.
Bingo.
Yep. Carl said Kinnett was assaulted on the last play of the game. They were very handsy all night long. All night long. Both teams were. That was one very interesting thing that the officials were just like, we're going to let it go. Handsy is the best word I can use. I mean, they're reaching in on both sides all night. Tony said Vescovy doesn't look like he wants to score. Last night he was. I understand what you're saying. He wasn't as pulling the trigger as quick as he normally does. I understand that. Let's see. Elijah said that as far as Olivier goes, Elijah said he heard we didn't have the degree that he wanted. I'm assuming for grad school.
Only if that degree was avoiding Rick Barnes like the plague.
ABC123, welcome. Good to have you. They said, was he seeing things or was the officiating a little one-sided? I mean, maybe.
Bad. I didn't necessarily think it was one-sided. I just think they're just terrible. And it doesn't matter what SEC gym you're in. It's going to be bad every night.
Yeah. Definitely both teams were getting, there was a lot of stuff that could have been called on both teams that wasn't.
Oh, yeah.
Now the call, the foul out call on Jonas was terrible. I mean, just terrible. But there were several times when both teams traveled or drug their pivot foot and they just let it go. There was one time in particular.
I mean, the foul they called on Jonas to foul him out, he was standing straight up. The guy drove into him and initiated the contact. And the previous 3 plays before it, they let everybody mug and assault each other. So it's like, how do you let them almost murder people out here for 4 or 5 possessions in a row and then call a verticality foul on a guy who's not actually playing defense? Like, he's literally just standing still. It's unbelievable.
He said it seemed like that one ref kept calling them on us.
That was the one I was referring to.
Yep. There was Rustin was talking earlier about how there was one official who both teams did not like because he kept blowing his whistle.
I don't think he made a correct call all night. I think when they go back and grade that, they're going to find that he probably missed 9 out of 10 calls.
There was one play in particular. It happened right in front of Tennessee's bench, and dude for Mississippi State drug his foot so bad, walked so bad, and the whole bench stood up going, "Why?" Like that, the official and nothing. And I was like, "Yeah, okay." So that wasn't good. Let's see. Tony said, "What's the deal with Vescovy?" Well, last night I'm not sure. He had been playing better before last night. He went through some rough stuff with losing his grandmother at the beginning of the season, but as of the last month, he'd been playing much better. So I'm not sure what was going on. Papa J, thank you for making an excellent point. He said, could we have more stupid turnovers? So there was with 5 minutes left, and it may have actually extended past that. It probably did. But with 5 minutes left in the first half, we had made more turnovers than field goals. That is not a good recipe for success. You can't win if you do that, especially for a whole half like that. You can't win. And, if Dalton hadn't turned into Michael Jordan or something in the second half, then the game wouldn't have even been as close as it was. But Dalton scored 26 points in the second half.
You want to hear something crazy, though? As bad as those turnovers are, we had 24 points off turnovers. Mississippi State only had 20. So even though we were turning it over, they weren't converting.
Moondrop Speedy said, just watched the Lady Vols against Florida, and the officiating was atrocious. I can imagine.
SEC women's basketball.
Let's see. Carl said, oh, yeah, that's a good point. Carl said, most Vol thing ever. Number 1 and number 2 in the country drop a game. Here's your chance. And we take the L. Yeah, that's right.
But has there ever, I would love to know if somebody's found this yet. Has there ever been a time in the history of college basketball that 4 of the top 5 teams lose to unranked opponents in a 24-hour period.
Probably
I mean,
not. I mean, like,
if that doesn't say how much parity there is in college basketball, I don't know what does. I mean, I think March is an absolute coin toss. It could be anybody.
for sure. No doubt about it. It's going to be one of the most intriguing tournaments that we've had in a while. Well, last year was crazy. Last year had tons of upsets. So, I mean, I fully expect to see the same thing. Tony said, "Do you think our young bigs need some playing time? I know Coach says they have to earn it, but we might need them later. Not in games like last night because neither one of them, Estrella or Phillips, could have handled Mississippi State's big guys.
Yeah. Tolu Smith, if we had put either one of those guys in against Tolu Smith would have put one of them in the hospital. Like it would not have ended well.
But I do agree that they need to be on the court getting some PT, though, for sure. Just maybe not in a game like last night where you had those particular opponents that you're playing against.
Yeah.
Elijah said, I need Barnes to start a fist fight with these refs.
That's the part that blows my mind. You know, we've talked about this before. As bad as those officials have been, I mean, it's the whole SEC. It's not just Tennessee. It's every game. Rick Barnes is the head of the officiating committee. He is over the NCAA rulemaking committee. So you've got the guy sitting there, coaching in this game, who could get every one of these people fired at the end of the season if he pitches a big enough fit. And they're still this bad. Like it doesn't seem to matter.
Yeah. Carl said, that's what ARC 10 was, physical play. And then all of a sudden in key moments, they call fouls against the Vols when they've been letting them play, the previous however long. And then, that happens. ABC 123 said State's aggressive approach really affected us. No doubt. Yeah, 100% agree. Let's see. Elijah said one thing is though Mississippi State is going to be ranked next week. We nearly went to their place with bad refs and almost came back down by almost 20. It's a good point. That's a good perspective. Let's see. Elijah, answering your question from earlier about has that ever happened that 4 of the top 5 teams would lose to unranked opponents within 24 hours? He said there hasn't. He saw that back earlier, apparently. He said that's the first time that has ever happened. I totally believe it. I mean, it's unreal how that could happen. Oh, good question. Moondrops Beatty said, in y'all's opinion, what's the reason for why they start so incredibly cold on offense? She said, I don't get it. They're either on fire or nothing.
I tell you,
I'm gonna amend that question actually a little bit. It's not even why do they start so incredibly cold? It doesn't matter. That's been the hallmark of Tennessee's basketball team over the last 2 to 3 years. It doesn't matter what point in the game. All of a sudden, it could go zoop and just flip and just be ice cold out of nowhere. So now go ahead and give your answer.
Well, what's really frustrating is the UT men's basketball account always tweets out lots of video footage from pregame warmups. And if you watch pregame warmups, they just fill it up. It's like, what in the world happened when we tipped the ball off? How did we go from? There was a video yesterday. It had JP Estrella and Dalton Connect knocking down turnaround threes from the corner in pregame. It's like, how do we go from burying turnaround threes to we can't hardly score 20 points in the first half? Yeah. Like, what on earth?
Gainey. I mean, he's tearing it up. And then the whistle sounds, and all of a sudden, whoop, not anymore. I wish, and I guarantee, I bet Rick Barnes wishes he knew too, what it is that all of a sudden they go on these long stretches. Like, Rustin mentioned Zakai in the first 4 minutes. Zakai had at one point 10 of our first 12 points, I think it was. And so with I think it was almost.
I think he had 13 of the 22 in the first half.
Well, there you go. There was either it was right at 5 minutes or it was almost 5 minutes. A stretch in the first half where they did not make a field goal. So I think it started with about 12 minutes, like right under the second TV timeout, and Zakai had got us up to that point, and then we went on like a 5-minute stretch where we did literally nothing on offense. I mean, you can't do that and expect to win. That's exactly what happened with Kansas. We went on almost 8-minute stretch and we lost. It's bizarre. It is bizarre how these guys, and it's not like they can't shoot it. I mean, look what happened in the second half. Dalton comes out and all of a sudden he can't miss. I mean, it was incredible watching him in the second half. That throwdown he had, my goodness, that was amazing. So I mean, I guarantee you that is the $1 million question right there. No exaggeration. If anybody knew the answer to that, you could go and they'd pay $1 million and to tell them what the answer is. I mean, that, because I guarantee you that entire coaching staff's trying to figure it out too. That is a fantastic question. That is the question. That is it right there. John, welcome, John. Good to have you, buddy. He said Adu and Awaka got bullied and it's starting to be a trend. Yeah, I mean, those two dudes, I don't know if it's a trend, but man, it like, 2 games ago, Adu scored 28 points against Ole Miss, or last game, whenever it was.
Yeah.
So, but no doubt last night, yeah, they did. Those dudes were physical. That was to be expected. Tennessee's coaching staff said before the press conference leading into the game a couple days before, this would be the most physical team they've played yet. And they were right. It was the most physical team they had played yet. Let's see. Oreo Puppy Dog said, I hope we do, but I think Memphis takes it all this year as far as like the NCAA tournament.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is literally anybody's game. It's going to be hard. I think, well, last year I would have said it's going to be hard to beat Purdue in March. Well, we saw what happened. So who knows? I mean, literally, who knows? Papa J said, why did we not use our speed more against the 7-footers and give fouls?
I feel like we did in the second half. We went to that run and jump press, and the run and jump press is what got us back in the game. I mean, that basically eliminated their 7-footer. They were hardly ever getting the ball across half court.
Yeah, that's a good point. He did not touch the ball very much, and especially the last 10 minutes of the game. He had that important and one at one point with like a minute and a half left. But other than that, I don't remember a whole lot of times he scored in the late second half. You're right. And, maybe in that first half, they could have spaced it out a little bit, tried to pull him away from the basket, and maybe dribble penetrate with other guys. And, yeah, I think that'd be a good strategy you mentioned there, Papa J.
I wish as soon as we saw we were flat, we had gone to the run and jump early and had run it a lot earlier in the game, because they struggled with it. And a very different turnout if we had gone to it earlier.
Oh yeah. Tony said in reference to playing Estrella and Phillips more, he meant not last night against Ole Miss. 100% agree. Yes, they should have played more.
Yeah.
Especially when we were up by like 20 something with 7 minutes left in the game. Yeah, they should have been on the court more. Totally agree. Let's see. Oh, so Elijah said about shooting around. He's like, because it's only 20 seconds out of a 45-minute shoot around. I bet if I went and shot for 45 minutes, I can get a 20-second clip like that.
Sure, but don't post it. Like if it's not representative of how the rest of the shoot around's going, post something else. Do the one fly, all that stuff. Don't show a bunch of videos of guys burying shots and warm-ups right before you go out and lay an egg in the first half.
ABC123 said could have been an Ole Miss hangover, maybe. Surely not, but I guess it could be. He said Awaka hasn't turned into what I thought he would this year. It's still early though. Let's see. Carl said missed quite a few put-ups in the paint, got fouled, but missed and one opportunities. Kept thinking of those when we kept tying. Yeah, that's fair. Absolutely. Okay, well, there was that one possession where Josiah had a layup right at the rim and he missed it. I mean, that's vitally important when it's a tie game with 10 seconds left, you know? I totally agree. Absolutely. All right. So, Rustin, I think there's really only two options for this, and y'all can let us know in the comments who your answer would be. But who was your player of the game? Like I said, I think there's really only two options.
Josh Hubbard.
Okay, yeah, I agree. Dude, that dude can shoot it, man. He can shoot the ball.
He hit some big ones. I mean, I thought Zakai played really, really well. I think Zakai's playing his best ball in 2 years right now.
Agreed.
You know, he did a heck of a job, especially in the run and jump. Like he and Santi both, they did a heck of a job dictating where the ball was going, forcing turnovers when the trap came. Like it was a clinic in how to run a run and jump press. And Zakai was a big part of that. So I'd go with Zakai.
Yeah, I mean, I think Zakai and Dalton are really the only two options. And, you know, you want to pick Zakai because he was so consistent the whole game long. You know, Dalton had a ferocious second half. It was unbelievable to watch. But Zakai was the reason they were even in it in the second half because, like you said, if he hadn't scored in the first half, we wouldn't have broke 20. And it definitely wouldn't have broke 20, may not have broke 15, you know. So um
yeah, the
you,
rest
you
the rest of
definitely
the team scored 9 points in the first half.
yeah. So I mean, it's hard not to pick Zakai. But man, that second half from Dalton was special. That was special. I still can't. That throwdown he had. I mean, my goodness. Oh my goodness. And the thing about it was he was not near the rim when he finished it. His arms were so daggum long that he was almost at the edge of the paint, and he dunked it from the edge of the paint. Like it was crazy. Um, so I'll go Dalton just because it was good to see him back in. You know, getting back in the feel of it. Because man, he had been struggling for like 4 games straight. He had really struggled. And then, you know, the first half last night he struggled. Not in the second half. That was incredible. Carl said his player of the game was Dalton. Papa J, Dalton, because of the second half. Oriel Puppy Dog said it's Zakai. He said, you know, it's continuously Zakai because how consistent he's been. And I agree. I mean, that's a great choice. Carl said, yep, only in the second half, though, because he only had 2 points in the first. That's true. I mean, dude ends up with 28 points, and he scored 26 of them in the second half. Elijah said, wish Sakai had or didn't shoot that last shot. Should have found a way to get the ball to Dalton. Totally agree. That ball should have been in Dalton's hands. When you got a guy who's on that much fire, right, that you got to get the ball in his hands.
Well, and he shot it from like 28 to 30 feet out. Like it was panic.
Yeah.
It wasn't, you know, they set a high ball screen for him to get him free so he could create something, and he just pulls up and hoists it. And it's like that's
from like
what the screen is for.
Yeah, from about 10 feet behind the 3-point line, felt like. So, I mean, that was when he said it, I was like, well, that's not the shot you want. I mean, that's immediately what I said as soon as he hoisted it. Moondrops Beauty, once again, fantastic point. She said, you know, if Josiah or Sonny score 3 more points each, we win. That's literally all it would have taken. She's right. And that's exactly right. And that's why it's a frustrating game, because they score 50 in the second half and they still lose. And you only needed 2 guys to make a shot, and that's it. 1 shot. Carl said, I thought watching the first half, what's going on? It looked like we were throwing the game. I know we weren't, but it looked like it. We could not hit water if we jumped out of a boat, and we could not handle their defensive pressure. Then we had to learn to be strong with the ball, because every single time especially in the paint, when we would bring the ball below our shoulders, they were taking it from us. I mean, as soon as they brought it down, ball's gone. They would reach in and grab it. knock it out of our hands, steal it. I mean, they couldn't do it. Elijah said, and that shot from Zakai was an air ball. Yeah. Let's see. Brant agreed. Welcome, Brant. He said, yeah, Zakai's shot looked desperate. He had time for a better shot. I agree. Totally agree. Papa J said we tried to rely on the three too much. I agree. Especially in the first half when you're taking so many outside shots and none of them are going in. At some point, you have to see the ball go through the nets to make those outside shots start going in too. So, that's when they need to start driving the ball, penetrating, getting to the basket because you're not hitting the outside shot. Just see the ball go through the nets. That it's contagious, man. Once you see that, then others start falling. That's what they needed. Carl said they were out rebounded too. Yeah, I mean they're physical. Yeah, Papa J said they were open shots too. Yeah, they sure were. That's what was so frustrating. Man, Gainey, he had like 3 wide open looks. At least one of them has to go down. I mean, it's just the way it is. If they're not, then it's all of a sudden becoming a liability instead of an asset. Moondrop Speed said it didn't even look like their pressure defensively. It just looked like we were playing weak. You got to be strong with the ball in your hands. Totally agree. Absolutely. Like I said, as soon as we brought the ball below our shoulders, it was gone. It was gone. And so we tried to do the same thing on the other end, and guys had a couple fouls called on us. Yep. Brant said, "What's wrong with Gainey?" I don't know. That's a great question. I wish he knew. I think he wishes he knew.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
It's in his head now. He's pressing. He's trying to do too much.
Exactly.
Not just letting the game flow happen.
Absolutely. Elijah said we need to have Dalton attack the rim more. He'll get a foul eventually and win at the free throw line. Absolutely. Papa J said it was too easy for them to drive to the hoop. Yeah, and then you try to pack it in to prevent that from happening. Hubbard hits a step back 3 with 2 people in his face. I mean, that dude was crazy. He was crazy good last night. The way he was shooting the ball, it was incredible, absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Well, so Tony has put a great comment in the thing here, and that's going to guide us into the last part of our show here. I'm not sure if anybody is familiar with what's happened in the college football landscape. That's sarcasm, because everybody knows what happened. But actually, Nick Saban was fired. I'm sorry, not fired. He retired. He retired last night. And I will say this. Kudos to Nick Saban for how he did it. It is very obvious. I mean, Chris Lowe could never say this, but it's blatantly obvious what happened. Clearly, he had communicated with Chris Lowe beforehand that it was going to happen. Oh, it had to have been that way.
You clearly didn't hear what Greg McElroy said this morning. McElroy told exactly what happened.
Okay, I got to hear this because here's my take on it from what we saw last night. Saban told his team immediately after telling his team. Chris Lowe tweets, "Nick Saban just told his team he's retiring." There's no press conference, and then with police escort, Saban left the facility in his car and went home. So that's what we saw last night. So my impression is, because I mean, every SEC coach knows Chris Lowe really well. If there's any doubt about that, then I mean, look at what we saw this week. There's a photo of from Gus's Good Times Deli with Heupel and Austin Price sitting there eating lunch. I mean, like these reports, they know the coaches, they know them, and people in the industry and the coaching profession, they respect Chris Lowe. And so to me, it seemed like they had told him, all right, it's happened, go ahead, that kind of thing. So you tell what McElroy said this morning.
2 days ago, Nick Saban interviewed two coaches for his defensive coordinator role. Does that sound like somebody who's going to retire? Yesterday, he interviewed 2 coaches for his wide receiver coaching role. The second one, and McElroy would not say who it was, made the entire interview about NIL. And Nick Saban has massive issues with an NIL.
Yes, he
He's made
does.
that he has made that very known internally that he wants nothing to do with dealing with it.
And kind of externally too.
He told, well, I mean, like very forcefully internally. He told multiple people over the last several months that when the time comes that he can't relate to players anymore, that it's time to go. And in this second interview with this wide receiver coach, when it became all about NIL, Nick Saban actually was leaving to go to his car and turned around and went back in the building and texted all the players that they needed to come immediately for an emergency team meeting. He literally decided between that interview with that coach and his car that he was done because of how that interview went. Somebody in the meeting texted Chris Lowe. Greg McElroy didn't know how Chris Lowe found out. Nobody at Alabama knew how Chris Lowe found out. The only thing they could figure out was someone in the meeting texted him from the meeting. And then because someone did that, word got back that Chris Lowe had just reported it publicly. And that's why the campus police walked Nick Saban to his car, because Chris Lowe scooped him.
That is very interesting. It almost sounds like Barry Sanders' retirement. It was just like a little knee-jerk decision. You know, Barry, that story goes, he woke up and he's like, all right, well, I'm done. And just told the guy that came to, get him out of his room at the hotel. He's like, oh, I'm done.
And McElroy said, it wasn't the interview that was the reason he retired. It was the self-reflection after the interview of, I just interviewed somebody and all he wanted to talk about was NIL, and I have no interest in that. If that's what I have to hire now, I don't need to do this anymore. And he just went back in and retired.
That is fascinating. I did not know that. That is fascinating.
Now let's talk about the fun part. Chris Lowe was on a radio show tonight, and I don't know who inside Alabama is giving Chris Lowe all the information, but I guarantee you there's some internal auditing going on currently. Chris Lowe is on an interview tonight and announces publicly that the first person Alabama contacted was Kirby Smart, and he gave them a very quick no. Then they contacted Dan Lanning, and he gave them a very quick no. They have also told Chris Lowe that Lane Kiffin is not on the list as an option, and that they are now focused on Mike Norvell and Kalen DeBoer.
Yeah, I don't get the Norvell hype. I don't get that.
Well, after what happened tonight with Florida State's NIL.
Well, okay. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Mike Norvell may be very interested in the Alabama job.
Yeah.
Because as of 8:00 tonight, he doesn't have a collective for a year.
Mm-hmm. And potentially facing sanctions and stuff. So,
well, they already did that. So his offensive coordinator got a 2-year show cause. It was a slap on the wrist. They're going to let him keep coaching. I don't know how you get a show cause, but you get to keep coaching at your own school. But he's not allowed to be involved in NIL in any way for the next 2 years. And their main collective cannot work with the university for a year. And there is a booster who has been unnamed, who has been suspended from any contact with the university for 3 years.
Yeah, he might be looking for a new gig. So Carl said Miss Terry fired him. Elijah said, imagine being that coach in that interview and making the GOAT retire over an interview. Brant said, maybe it's settled, but seems like Bama should have had the replacement ready to go.
Based on what Greg McElroy was saying, I don't think they knew he was going to pull that. That he just kind of on a whim yesterday afternoon said, nope, I'm done. And he walked out.
Brant said, I mean, you think Saban would have sat on it out of respect for the program to allow a plan to unfold. Totally agree.
Oh,
Totally agree.
that was the other thing Greg McElroy said. He said
You're exactly right, Brant.
He said there was a plan in place,
I'm sure there was.
and Saban scrapped it and just made a reaction decision yesterday afternoon.
Papa J said, it's sad that Bama had 3 SEC championships and 1 natty between Bear and Saban, and we had 5 SEC championships and 1 natty under Majors and Fulmer during that same time. Elijah said, I wonder if anyone in Alabama was expecting so many coaches to turn that down.
That was the other thing. That was the other thing Chris Lowe said tonight. He said that the Alabama staff is very surprised at how many people are saying no to them, and mainly Kirby and Dan Lanning.
Well, I have thoughts on that I'll say in a minute, because that's one of my things I was going to mention about this. Elijah said, if Mike Norvell becomes a coach, I could feel another Tennessee win streak against Bama brewing. Yeah, for sure. I agree, man. But one more last thing about basketball. Brant said earlier that Hubbard reminded him of that dude from Purdue in the Sweet 16. Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. No doubt about it. So here are my thoughts. Go ahead.
Go ahead. You're good.
Elijah just hit the nail on the head. He said, I wouldn't want to follow in Saban's footsteps. It's too much pressure. So here are my thoughts about it. And I was talking to my buddy Jordan today, and we both said the exact same thing at the same time. No one in their right mind would not want that job. However, at the exact same time, no one in their right mind would want that job. I mean, that's the craziness of this. It is clearly the best job in all of college football right now. But no one is going to live up to the expectation of that fan base and the standard that has been set. No one will live up to that. Mm-mm. So I'm sure that's why everybody in the building is shocked that people are saying no, because it's the premier job in college football right now. Like, why would you not want that? But at the same time, you don't want it because you know you ain't going to succeed. There's just no way people can live up to the expectations, and people know that. And then you got to figure this. So the other thing that I was going to say about it, Rustin hit the nail on the head last night. Probably the most important tweet about this whole thing, that he's the only person I saw doing this. But from our Volbros account, he tweeted last night, the transfer portal window is now open for 30 days for people on Alabama's football team, because when a head coach leaves the school, that team, the players can also have the opportunity to transfer within 30 days.
And every signed player commitment is null and void if they choose. Alabama just signed the number 1 high school quarterback in America. He's now on the market if he wants to be.
So, I mean, no wonder coaches wouldn't want that spot, because now I guarantee you last night, every single player on Alabama's football team, their phone was ringing off the hook from coaches all over the country. Because, I mean, if you're the next coach, all of a sudden you're now recruiting the entire team to stay. And imagine the panic in Alabama's operations staff right now. They know that if they don't have somebody by day 15, day 20 of that 30-day window, all of a sudden those players are going to start looking a whole lot more seriously around everywhere. I mean, it's a mess if you're Alabama football right now because of that transfer portal. That's the bottom line. You're hoping those dudes stay, and I'm sure Nick probably appealed to the players to stay, and when he was telling them that he was retiring, I'm sure he probably did that. But I mean, the players have no clue who's going to be their coach now. That's a bad situation.
So this is strictly hypothetical, but imagine if this happens. So every Alabama player is now eligible for the portal for 30 days. There's a whole lot of smoke that Jim Harbaugh is going to be in the NFL within a week. So that means Michigan's entire roster is in the portal for 30 days.
2 of the 4 playoff teams.
Even if they hire a coach, which they will immediately do because Brian Kelly will pack his bags and run to Michigan because that is his dream job. Even if they hire a coach, the portal still stays open. So now with Saban retiring, Alabama's in the portal for 30 days. As soon as Harbaugh goes pro, Michigan will be in the portal for 30 days. When Brian Kelly takes that job, LSU will be in the portal for 30 days. Whoever LSU hires to replace Brian Kelly, that school's team will be in the portal for 30 days. And if either Kalen DeBoer or Mike Norvell takes the Alabama job, either Washington or Florida State will be in the portal for 30 days. Can you imagine the sheer volume of talent that will be out there available? Like you said, there are coaches all over the country right now calling their donors and saying, hey, we need to beef up the collective now. Like whatever you got, throw it in there. We can go get really good right now. You know, Alabama, if you look at recruiting rankings, Alabama is the most talented team in America. Every one of those guys is now available.
Yep. And, that's another reason why it could potentially be true that people who might have been maybe overreacting to Tennessee's lack of activity and gaining transfers, even though they did get multiple defensive backs, a wide receiver, about to be hopefully an offensive tackle from LSU. Even though they did get all these guys, people are like, oh, we just didn't do well in the portal this year. It ain't over. It's really kind of just starting up.
If you remember a week ago, I told you Matt Zenitz
sure did
on Mac and Cube, and he said, now he was referring more to Michigan and LSU, but he said, just wait, it's only just starting. It's about to go nuts. And he
said it.
Somehow he knows this stuff. Like he finds out things that nobody else knows, and it all comes true. And he called it. Like it's about to go absolutely insane.
I will say one last thing before I go to these comments here about what we're talking about, but I can guarantee you, somebody mentioned Jimmy Sexton in the comments. I can guarantee you, whoever replaces Nick Saban in Alabama, their buyout is going to be the largest buyout in the history of college football. It's going to Jimbo's, was like 98 million, I think. Nah, this one's going to be over 100 million. It'll be at least 100 million because whoever takes a job knows they're not making it more than 3 to 5 years. It's not happening. They'll be lucky if they make it through the third year because they're going to be having to piece together probably a roster after all these people start hitting the portal. The expectation is going to be you still better win a national championship. And if they hadn't by year 3, adios. And then so whoever this is, the buyout is going to be astronomical. And then they're just going to go live their buyout life after 3 years. Like that's what's going to happen.
You mentioned Jimmy Sexton. I saw the most Jimmy Sexton thing ever tonight. I can't remember. I was just looking for it. I can't find it. But there was a reporter that tweeted out after the Chris Lowe interview where he said Kirby and Dan told him no. There was a reporter that tweeted out the next 5 on the list for Alabama: Kalen DeBoer, Mike Norvell, Lane Kiffin, who is Dabo Sweeney, and James Franklin. And it was like, wait, what? But then when you stop and think, who's James Franklin's agent? Jimmy Sexton. And he loves when stuff like this happens because he'll pay people to say his people's names so he can leverage it for bigger contracts. It was the most Jimmy Sexton thing ever, getting James Franklin in there with 4 guys that he has absolutely no business being on the same list with.
Yep. Absolutely. So some of the comments that came through. Elijah said 1 9-win season at Alabama, and you're probably done. Yeah, you're exactly right.
Oh yeah.
After the standard that's been set for over a decade,
That
absolutely.
that happened to Saban when he won 10 games last year. They were saying maybe it's over. He's past his prime. It's
Yeah.
like, when did a 10-win season become a bad year?
Brant said shortlist should be Butch, Dooley, and Pruitt.
Or all of the above. I mean, right there,
Yeah.
you got head coach, offensive coordinator, and defensive coordinator.
I love the guy. I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been Callum, but somebody on Twitter posted that video of Butch Jones going, "When can I start?" from the hallway smoke scene from
Yep.
Neyland Stadium. Brant said open for players to leave, but Bama can't bring anybody in. That's exactly
Right.
right. And that's why it's got to be kind of nerve wracking if you're in Alabama right now. Carl said Jimmy Sexton. Psst, I got a list.
So does he.
Yeah. Let's see. Elijah said, "Don't we have a tight end from Bama visiting this weekend?" I'm not sure. I don't know. That's a good question.
I hadn't heard that. Bama's top wide receiver recruit decommitted though. He's back available, number 4 wide receiver nationally.
Moondrops Beauty. So I literally said this exact same thing.
Yeah.
To somebody. Multiple times actually, over the last few months, as you know, the rumors, when is he going to retire, kind of thing. But then again, this is literally the conversation that's happened, that I've said these exact things. It's the equivalent of trying to follow Pat Summitt. You can't do it. It's impossible. I totally agree. Carl said that he heard that the AD asked the players for 72 hours.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
And Chris Lowe mentioned that tonight as well. And it was kind of in response. I think the players found out that Kirby and Dan Lanning said thanks, but no thanks. And I think it was in response to that. He's trying to buy time.
Doug said Alabama better be hiring somebody within the next 48 to 72 hours. You're exactly right. Otherwise, all of a sudden, those phone lines are about to be hopping. Let's see. Elijah said this offseason is about to be insane. You're exactly correct, man.
It's impossible.
Is profoundly true.
I think Zach posted on one of our videos the other day, does this change my pick for next year? I don't think anybody can predict anything for any team about next year, because the top 10 is about to be an absolute whirlwind.
Okay, so it's interesting you mentioned that. There was an interview I saw. I was scrolling through Twitter, and somebody was Eli Drinkwitz was on the radio with somebody. I can't remember who it was, but he was on air when he found out that Saban had retired, and they were showing his reaction to it. And they asked him, "So what do you think this means about next year? Like, what do you expect for your team now?" And he said, "It cracks me up when people ask me about next year." He said, "It's January. I don't even know who's going to be on my roster next year."
Mm-hmm.
Like, he said that in an interview. I mean, that's the reality of it, is these coaches know, like, there's still so much transition that's going to happen on their roster. And man, that's got to be a tough spot to be in as a coach. You don't even know who you're going to be coaching.
It's impossible.
You're recruiting your own players at that point. Papa J said, "What will Saban do with all the extra Camaros?" Okay, so I have a really good story about this kind of thing. So I'm very good friends with a former Alabama softball player, and she was telling me that she was there during like the Mike Price years, the Shula years, and she was telling me that they come out of practice at softball and they go to get in their car or whatever, and there would be football players out in the parking lot with like Lamborghinis, Camaros, Corvettes, this kind of stuff. And apparently there was a automotive dealership in Tuscaloosa who had struck a deal with the players, I guess you could say, and they were leasing cars to the players for $50 a month. And so it was legal because they were leasing the cars to the players for $50 a month. It just happened to be a really good deal of $50 a month. And I was like, well, there you go. That makes a lot of sense. Let's see. Doug said, got here late. What is the last you heard on Lance Hurd? Last I heard was that he's about to announce he's coming to Tennessee. That's the last thing I heard. I hope that's accurate. I hope that's from multiple different places.
Yeah,
so I'm hoping that's correct.
Yeah, he narrowed it down to Tennessee and Oklahoma, and all indications are that he's leaning to Tennessee.
I mean, tonight on Twitter, it was all a Twitter about this should be any time now. We'll hear an announcement that he's coming to Tennessee. So I hope that works out. I hope it comes through because, man, oh, man, we need him. We desperate. And I guarantee you there's a couple offensive tackles in Alabama that are getting phone calls from Tennessee right now, too. Guarantee it.
So Elijah tagged us in the article about this tight end. It's the Kitzelman kid. He entered the portal. He played in every game this year for Alabama. He's a run blocker. They don't let him run pass routes. He doesn't catch a ball ever. And he's visiting Tennessee this weekend. And I will go back to what I said a month ago. Can we please forsake the big body tight end and let the athletes go be athletes? Stop wasting spaces on extra offensive linemen. If we need offensive linemen, let's sign offensive linemen. We don't need big body tight ends. It slows everything down. It's not that effective. Get rid of them and put one more stud on the field.
That is the hill Reston's willing to die on.
I hope that kid. Hey, there's a fantastic opportunity waiting on that kid at Iowa. He needs to go to Iowa where he will fit right in. He can be as big and slow as he wants to be, and it doesn't matter.
Tri-Cities Vol said, don't give a darn about the whole state of Alabama. Elijah said, on top of everything, we're about to land George McIntyre. So there was a 247 crystal ball, I think by Steve Wiltfong. Last night, and maybe it's Chad Simmons, one of the two of them, predicting Tennessee to land George McIntyre, who's a 5-star quarterback in the 2025 year recruiting class. So that'd be something to keep an eye on.
Who had narrowed it down to Tennessee and Alabama. Can't imagine what caused that decision.
Yeah, for real. Hey, Doug, I'm glad you're with us, man. I'm sorry you have strep throat. He said, the bad thing is I have strep throat. Good news is I get to stay up late and watch the Vol Bros. Go Big Orange. Well, I hope you feel better, man. Strep throat, it's not fun at all. So I hope you feel better soon, buddy. Tri-Cities Vol said, okay, trying to follow Nick Saban and is just like trying to follow Pat Summitt, and it's just like trying to follow John Ward. No thanks. You can't do it. I totally agree. There are certain legends of the game that you just can't fill their shoes. And that's whoever takes this job, that's exactly how they're going to find themselves. Elijah said it's about to look like an NCAA football dynasty sim 10 years down the line. Yeah.
There has to be moments that some of these college coaches have to feel like they're in like an NCAA 2K type thing. I mean,
no doubt.
They're literally watching their rosters going, so who's staying? Who's leaving? Oh, we didn't give you enough money and you're leaving now? Okay, great. We'll go find 3 more of you in the portal. All right, fine, bye. It's got to be just absolute chaos.
Carl, you win the trophy, man, for best comment of the night. He said, Alabama center saying, thank you, Lord, they forgot about me.
That kid had some parting comments for Alabama fans on his way out the door. Holy cow. There was no love lost on either side in that deal.
Oh, man, that's funny. That's a good one, Carl. That's a good one. Yeah, Alabama center kind of had a rough playoff game. Really specifically 2 plays that were rough and potentially may have cost them the game. We'll never know for sure what happened on those 2 plays. But
I'll tell you right now, if he can play left guard, come on down.
Sure, absolutely. He ain't snapping it, so let's see.
The blocking was never the issue. He blocked just fine.
Hang on, Carl. We may have a close second, or this might win it out too. Would Coach O take the job? That would be hilarious. I would pay money to see that. Actually, that would be amazing. That would be so good.
Alabama would have to put closed captioning at the bottom of the screen on his press conferences. They wouldn't be able to
Yeah.
understand a word he said.
Doug said, "With what's happening in college football and what you have to do with your own roster, I can see the top coaches wanting to go the pro route. Yeah, for sure,
Yep.
no doubt about it, man. Absolutely. Let's see.
Or if you get caught cheating for like 2.5 years, and the easiest thing to do is just go pro. I mean, both and.
Yeah, that's the Harbaugh route. Zach. Hey, Zach, welcome, buddy. Glad you're here. Zach Rustin actually answered your question that you asked on, does this change your prediction about Alabama next year? He answered that early. Rustin, you want to answer it now that Zach's with us?
Well, we've talked a lot about the carousel that's going to be the top 10 over the next 2 months. And I don't know that anybody can predict anything next year. I mean, every top 10 roster is going to completely overhaul after the domino effect of what's happening with Nick Saban and Jim Harbaugh. So
Absolutely.
it's
that is interesting. There could be a lot of players who played in the college football playoff this year who are playing again in the playoff next year, but in a different uniform. Team. I mean, it's going to be very interesting. That'll be a funny, little infographic that they put up on the screen next year during the playoff games. Whoa. Okay, nope. Oreo Puppy Dog, you win. It's over. Nothing. You win. You win the best comment of the night award. He said, imagine watching the SEC story in 50 years. Yeah, buddy. And we gotta be like, yep, I remember when that happened. If I'm still around in 50 years.
You've got a better shot of being around than ESPN does.
Yeah. That's fair too. That's fair. Oh gosh, Papa J. That's pretty good. Let's see. Zach, I think that's an accurate take, buddy. He said Alabama will struggle without Nick Saban. There is no doubt about it.
And even if they don't, the fans still think they will.
Exactly. The fans will expect them to. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Zach said Tennessee 16-0 next year. Elijah said, I can't wait for this national championship to get vacated and Washington gets to claim it. Yeah. I mean,
I don't think I would want that one.
Carl's killing me tonight. I love it. He said, go Tigers. Roll Tide. I love it. I love it. Man, that would be, oh my goodness, that would be amazing to watch that. Because man, those Alabama like media people, half of them would be like, what in the world is going on right now? And the other half would be loving it because it'd be such a radical departure from everything that they've experienced over the last. You could just see them up there. I've got my Coca-Cola right here on my podium. Because that's like the thing down there. You got to have that Coca-Cola label facing the camera on the podium at every press conference. Oh man, that would be incredible. Nope. Yeah, you're right, Zach. 16-0. Absolutely, buddy. Yeah. The next. What do you think? You give it? Oh, okay. So spring practice is going to start for some teams in less than 2 months. Spring practice will start for all teams. All teams will be practicing by mid-March at the latest for spring practice. I mean, and I'm being generous. Pretty much everybody's going to be starting by the end of February, definitely the beginning of March. But by mid-March, everybody and their mama is practicing spring football in mid-March. What if, let's just get a little wild and crazy here as we end the show. So Alabama just started. So 30 days from then would be like February the 9th.
Michigan will be about a week after that.
And so if Brian Kelly does take the Michigan job, then now we're looking at the second to third week of February that the portal's still open. And then, what if DeBoer takes the Alabama job. All right, so now Washington, they're open simultaneously with Michigan. Whoever fills the LSU role, that team's going to be open until probably the last week of February. No joke, there might be teams practicing, and the transfer portal is still open for some
Well,
teams.
and don't forget, there's another portal session right after
Right
spring
after.
practice. So
Yep.
some of these guys might think their job is safe, show up to spring practice, find out that some dude in the portal just rolled in, go
Yep.
through spring practice, and then enter the next portal session as soon as it ends to go somewhere else because a month earlier some guy showed up they weren't expecting.
That's exactly right. I mean, and here's the thing. This upcoming season, there has been a law passed that if you're a multi-time transfer, there's a 1-year waiver that you can play immediately. So, guys, I mean, let's not be, you know, blinded to our own team here. It is very possible that a player that transferred in that was in a Tennessee jersey on the sideline at the Citrus Bowl, one of those guys, if they wanted to,
Yeah.
could transfer right after spring practice and still be playing next season somewhere else. So, I mean, I feel sorry for college coaches because they're having to recruit their own team year round now.
Or one of the ones who just transferred to Ole Miss may find out that Lane doesn't actually have any money, like Tamarion McDonald already did, and end up transferring somewhere else too.
Yep, absolutely. It's going to be crazy. Elijah's right. He said the next 2-3 months will be crazy. You're exactly right. It will be. It will be unlike any football off season we have ever seen.
Yeah.
I think that is a very safe statement.
There will be daily turnover that just shocks people.
Yep, I agree. Let's see. Tri-Cities have all said there's a good chance Michigan will be in spring practice with their window open. Very good chance. Absolutely.
Yep.
Carl said, outside Tennessee without Saban, who's Lane going to troll? He ain't trolling Kirby. Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see his attitude after this.
Depends on how bad Billy Napier is. If he wants that job bad enough, he may help the hot seat get a little hotter.
Yep, absolutely. Elijah said, depending on who gets the Bama job, Tennessee could, go 11-1. Yeah, I mean, for sure, no doubt about it. I mean, I'm not too concerned about Florida next year. So, it's going to be a fun few months in the off season here. And I say that as someone who gets to sit and watch it all. For the coaches, to them, I'm so sorry. Because the next few months is going to be unlike any they've ever experienced. A January through February and March is going to be unlike any January, February, March that any college football coach has ever experienced before this year. It's going to be not fun at all for them. And so Zach said 16-0, right? not 11-1. Yeah, Carl said it looks better with playing Oklahoma, Bama, and Georgia. Absolutely, man. Totally agree.
I think the other thing that should give people a lot of peace is in the midst of all this insanity that's going on, we've got a picture popping out of Josh Heupel like this, lean back in Gus's Good Times Deli, having a sandwich with Austin Price, with body language that says, I'm pretty confident right now. I feel pretty good. Everything's looking all right.
That's fair point.
After the decade of dysfunction, to be in a position where we have a head coach that's doing that feels pretty good.
Yep. Well, this has been a lot of fun.
Forgot one thing.
Go right ahead.
Lady Vols took down Florida tonight, 88-81, to move to 10-5 overall and 3-0 in the conference. They're now 6-1 when Rakia Jackson plays, and you could make a case. So the one loss was Florida State when she got hurt. So you could make a case that in the 6 games that she has played healthy, they're 6-0. It's amazing how one player can all of a sudden make Kelly look like a much better coach.
Yep.
For those of you who don't know what Jimmy's and Joe's are, Jimmy's and Joe's matter.
Yep, absolutely. Elijah said he's so glad that we have Coach Heupel. Much different scenario than we've felt in a long time. Zach said, you were rocking that backwards hat, man. Looked good on you there. Carl said, thrilled we are no longer a dumpster fire. Amen, brother.
Well, and what would be even better? Let's say Bama does screw this hire up. And what if they go through a decade of dysfunction?
That's what I was just thinking. Mark Nagy needs to get ready. That would be, wow. That'd be something. Elijah said, yeah, it's crazy what happens when our best player is healthy. You're right, man. And I will say this, though. I do think it should be a cause for concern that one player can make that big of a difference. We got to have other people stepping up, because what if, Lord forbid, what if she got injured again?
Well, they've got others, but the team was built around feeding off of her. I mean, yeah. Sarah Puckett, and Jules Spear both had 20 points tonight. Rakia had 18, but they're open because of things Rakia is creating.
Sure, and, the attention she's drawing.
Yeah,
it makes a good point. He said, to be fair, she's a projected top 4 pick. You're exactly right, and deservedly so.
I tell you, the thing I'm most impressed with Rakia is she has clearly spent a lot of time working on her speed and agility and ball handling. There was probably a 3 minute stretch of time tonight where they went with Tamari Key and Jillian Hollingshed inside at the same time and moved Rakia to the 3. I mean, when you got those 3 girls on the floor at the same time, you got some size, and Rakia was bringing the ball up and handling it like a guard. It was impressive.
Carl, thank you so much for saying this. I'd forgotten to mention this, and you're exactly correct. I saw this on Twitter earlier today. The Lady Vols softball team has been ranked preseason number 2. You're exactly right, and I'm glad you mentioned that. That's a huge deal. Huge deal. Well, it has been a lot of fun. Amen, brother. Amen, Zach. He says it's a good time to be a Vol. Absolutely. It has been a lot of fun. I hope all of you have a fantastic evening. Bama, Rustin is available, and I'm sure he would probably take the job with a $50 or $50 million buyout. He wouldn't even need.
I don't even need a buyout. Guaranteed money. It's all we got to have. Buyouts irrelevant.
Oreo Puppy Dog said, thanks, guys. It's a great show. I appreciate it, man. Thank you for joining us. Carl said it's an everything school. Absolutely. Elijah said, good night, guys. Thanks for a good show. Hey, we appreciate you joining us very, very much. It's so much fun getting to interact with all y'all. It's a fun time. Fun time to be a Vol, that's for sure. Just like Zach said, it's a good time to be a Vol. So we hope everybody has a great evening, and go Vols, and we will see everybody Sunday night. So, oh, wait, Carl said, Rustin, if you get hired by Bama, just throw the game against the Vols.
Hey, like I said, guaranteed money is guaranteed money. I don't care about the buyout.
Zach said, you got to turn in your Vols card. All right. That's good stuff. All right. Well, have a great evening, everybody. We'll see y'all very, very soon. Wait, I did the football one by mistake. I did the football one. I guess I was just thinking about football so much there.
It's in honor of Nick Saban.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to go with that. We're going to do that again. We're going to do the football one because I'm excited about Tennessee football now. So I'm going to redo that. Doug said, great show. Go with that. Thank you, Doug. Appreciate it. Carl said, see you, bros. We appreciate it, man. Thank you, Carl. It's always good to hear from you, buddy. So I'm going to do the football one again, and I'll actually end the show this time.